Journey to Lemora, Chapter 12. Battle for the Temple. That night I dreamed of a castle in the middle of a vast city. The walls were made of bone-white marble, and intricate carvings in the buttresses and around the vast marble columns were carvings of fantastic beasts and soldiers wielding magic. The windows had stained glass murals depicting an elegant, almost angelic woman, wearing a crown adorned with clear crystals, and from her heart sprouted a rainbow. At the end of each color stood a champion knight with a sigil representing each element. The White Queen had a gentle smile and gazed lovingly at her subjects. The stained glass reminded me of our old door back home, and her smile. It was just like Mom's. At the center of the castle was a large courtyard with the most beautiful garden one could imagine. There were fountains and flowers of every color, creeping vines and ornate chairs to rest in. A king sat in one of these chairs, his crown resting low on his furrowed brow. His hair was silver with salt and gray strands mixed in, and his eyebrows were long and thick above his deep mahogany eyes. He stroked his well-groomed beard and stared into a pond full of shimmering fish. A woman approached him and touched his hand. Her face was covered with a long black veil, which matched her black flowing gown, as well as the king's own black robes. He had a deep, remorseful look on his face as he looked up at her. The woman nodded and bowed low, and the king became stone-faced and emotionless. "There's no other way. Send him in," the king's voice boomed in the courtyard. The guards opened the doors, and a knight entered the room, followed by 4 other knights whose faces were concealed beneath ornate helmets. This knight was younger than the other guards, maybe a little older than myself, but tall and handsome, with the same piercing dark eyes as the king, and thick bright silver hair which parted to the side. His light complexion contrasted against his black armor and complemented the silver hilt sword, the pommel which held a large black opal. "You called me, father?" the knight asked dutifully, kneeling down with a hand above his heart. "Kaelin, the time has come for your ordeal. Invalidate the right to your throne. You must complete the task if you wish to succeed me and rule our great kingdom," the king stated, staring down at his son. "I will do as you command. What would you have me do?" Kaelin replied. "You must journey to each country and claim the magic origins for our kingdom. This will not be an easy task, as there are many obstacles in your way. You will need to find a way past the guardian barriers, and perhaps some of the guardians themselves. They used to call themselves the Knights of Light, but do not falter. They do not have the vision or wisdom of Our Lady Spectre." And the king gestured to the veiled woman, who bowed again. "Complete this task, in the name of Eloria." "In the name of Eloria!" the knights erupted. "I will not fail you," Kaelin vowed, and left the courtyard with his billowing black cloak and fellow knights following behind him. "Would that his mother could see this day," the king sighed. "She sees from beyond the veil, my lord," the Lady Spectre spoke in a hushed voice. "I suppose that is true. I will join you soon enough, my lovely Estelle," the king mourned, staring watery-eyed into the rippling pond. I woke with a start when Anu jumped onto my chest. His pale yellow eyes were inches away from mine, and his long cat whiskers brushed my cheeks. "What's going on?" I asked sleepily, and rubbed my eyes. Anu jumped off of me, and I resisted the urge to pet his fluffy white fur. "We have a problem," Anu growled urgently. Amber and Nick and I gathered around him to listen. "There is a breach in the barrier. I can feel it. With most of my energy going towards healing my body, I do not have the magic to sustain it for much longer. You 3 must help me protect the Temple of Rhas'tar from the Umbra. If they gain control of it, we may never be able to restore balance to Lemora." "We've been training for days. We can put up a fight," Nick assured him. Anu didn't look convinced. We each ate a hearty can of soup, hoping to fuel ourselves for using more fire magic. It was our best offensive spell so far, and we would need to use it against the Umbra. We packed our things and hiked back up the steep mountain to the temple. It wasn't nearly as brisk and cold as the first time we hiked. Our magical energy kept us warm. As we looked out over the mountains, nothing immediately seemed out of the ordinary. It wasn't until we reached the peak that I saw it. At the far south of the horizon, the sky was darker there, as if the sun couldn't touch it, even though there weren't any clouds. "They're coming. Nick, you have the strongest shield. You will be taking point position. Amber, you will be his left flank, and Catty, you are the right. I will stand rear guard. Catty will focus on precision strikes, and Amber will use the firestorm attack," Hanu instructed coolly. His combat experience was apparent from his posture and calmness. I was nervous. My palms began to sweat in my gloves. I could see the anxious looks on the others' faces, too. Within minutes, a group of Umbra could be seen at the base of the mountain, emerging from the forest line. They began to climb, and we each prepared our spells. All we could do was wait for them to enter our range. The closer they came, the more the atmosphere around them felt sickly and cold, as if tainting the very air they breathed. Nick cast his spell first, Brairala. The water wall enveloped all four of us. The nearest Umbra smashed themselves against it, squealing and thrashing wildly. They were grotesque up close, their eyes completely blackened, their faces disfigured beyond recognition. They were not from this land, like the ones before with the fur. These had more human characteristics, with greasy hair atop their heads and rounded ears, which were hanging strangely from their twisted necks. It was unclear whether they were a man or a woman before they changed. Amber and I cast our fire spells, red flames raining down on all of them while my purple ones shot them down one by one. The first wave died, piled up against the shield, and we rested only for a moment when a second wave of Umbra came. Every time one fell, it made a horrible screeching sound, calling more Umbra to its aid. Before long, there was a pile of burning Umbra higher than our heads, and I was thankful the shield curved over us like a bubble. With great strain, Nick pushed the shield outwards, and some of the corpses tumbled back down the mountain, onto the oncoming Umbra. Without any warning, my key flashed brightly, and I blinked my eyes. Strange. I wasn't doing any magic at that moment. The attack seemed to have subsided, and we all sighed with relief. "That's what you get, you nasty buggers," Nick shut out victoriously. But he could no longer hold the shield, and the wall between us fell. The odor of the burning corpses was almost unbearable, and I felt sick to my stomach. Then, one of the Umbra in the middle of the pile lurched forward, scratching Nick in the chest. He screamed in agony. His face grew pale, and his blood stained the snow beneath his feet, and he collapsed to the ground. Amber burned the Umbra with vengeance, raising the whole pile into a pyre of flames. But the Umbra just kept coming from the bottom of the mountain. She did what she could do to hold them off, burning each one as it came into range. I leapt over to Nick and tried my best to heal him with water magic. Anu managed to transform into his larger form just in time to fight an Umbra, which crept behind us. But this wasn't actually an Umbra at all. His body was human, tall and strong, and clothed in black plate armor. The ornate helm covered the attacker's face. Only his dark eyes were visible. Eyes that were so familiar to me. Anu swung his massive ice claws at the invader, but he was met with the clang of a steel sword. He was incredibly agile and strong, matching Anu blow for blow, although he was only 1/4 the size of Anu's great snow lion form. His body and sword had a strange haze about it, like a deep indigo aura, barely visible to the naked eye. Then it dawned on me. He was using magic to make himself stronger. "I will not let you take this temple. I've been guarding it for 100 long years. A young pup such as you are nothing to me," Anu roared, flashing his great fangs, and his pale cat eyes narrowed dangerously. Give it up, beast. It's over. We've won. Look around you. There is no more temple. Your people have all succumbed, and now you will too, the stranger rasped, holding his sword confidently. This magic origin belongs to Eloria now. Never! Anu leapt, his full weight behind him, right onto the black-armored attacker, pinning him onto the icy ground. I will die here, with all my brethren before me, before I let you take it. As you wish, the stranger sneered coldly. Blood trickled down the blade of the sword as it slid deeply into Anu's body. He fell limp onto his side, and the stranger slid out from beneath him, pulling his sword from Anu's body. He was holding onto his own left shoulder, where blood dripped down his limp arm and fingertips. No, Anu! I screamed. Everything slowed down. It was as if the world was on a different timeline than I was. I tried to move, but I couldn't. More Umbra swarmed around us, screeching and gurgling. Amongst all the monsters were 2 more humans, wearing heavy black armor. One had a deep voice which boomed through his helm as he fought his way up the hill. The other knight was smaller in stature and had a red kerchief tied around his wrist. They ran to the injured man, removing his helm to see his strained face. It was him, the boy from my dream just last night, Prince Kalen. "Sire, are you all right?" they asked him, and he staggered to his knees. It's done. I finally completed my ordeal," Kalen rasped between breaths, dropping his sword to slow the bleeding of his wounded arm. "Ellie," Amber began to say, intending to finish him off, but one of his guards pummeled her in the stomach. She fell to the ground limply with Nick and Anu. I was the only one left, completely surrounded. It can't end like this, can it? I stared in disbelief at my fallen friends, frozen with fear. No, no. I got to my feet trembling and tried with all my might to channel more magic. My ki glowed bright violet, and I could feel the power flowing through me, surging with fury. Everything froze. The beasts snarling around us, the prince and his guards, the blood dripping from his arm as still as ice. Even the snowflakes in the air were still in the sky. Time stopped, or that's how it appeared when I blinked my eyes as my ki flashed a brilliant light. I was standing to the right of Nick, his shield of water surrounding us. Amber cast her firestorm down upon the Umbra charging up the mountain. They fell up against the side of the shield, just like before. "That's what you get, you nasty buggers," Nick shouted, and his shield fell again. The smell of corpses burned my nose, just as it had before. And then I knew. I pulled on Nick's arm hard, using as much of my body weight as I could muster. He lurched to one side just in time to dodge the Umbra from the center of the pile, who slashed feebly with its clawed fingers. "How did you know?" Nick stared at me in awe, as Amber set the pile on fire once again. "I saw it. This has already happened. We can't win this. There's too many," I shouted, looking wildly between them. Nick and Amber looked skeptically at me, but Anu nodded grimly. "Behind you!" I yelled. Anu once again transformed into his mighty beast form and met the armored prince's sword with his ice claws. They struggled, but this time I was free to help him. Amber and Nick held off incoming Umbra with fire and water, and I focused a magic blast on the masked stranger. He couldn't dodge all of Anu's attacks anymore, and he was trying to dodge my own. Kalen took a blow to the left leg from Anu's claws and let out a scream. His guards finally came up the slopes, but we still held the high ground. The prince cast a spell, knocking all 4 of us off our feet. Nick's shield dropped and he limped to his guards. "Sire, are you all right?" they asked him as he staggered to his knees. "We must capture the magic origin. Defeat them by any means," he grimaced through his teeth. Nick summoned up his shield once again, but this time Anu summoned his own. The blue shield turned acid green when Anu's magic combined with it, and it crackled with lightning. Umbra once again began to attack, and the shields sparked at them dangerously. Amber and I started to throw our fire spells at the surrounding Umbra, but they still didn't die. The guards seemed to be using their own spells to shield them. "Keep attacking! They will break soon enough," Prince Kalen demanded ominously, using his own blackish-blue magic to heal his leg. More Umbra pushed past the shields, and the strain was showing on Nick and Anyu's faces. Anyu's body regressed into a small cat body, the gem in his forehead glowing brightly. Amber and I gave up on attacking and added our force to the shield, making it turn black. "Catty, you said this happened already? In your vision, we lose?" Anu asked. "Yes, you all died," I choked. "I would rather die than give up my people's temple. I have guarded it for over 100 years, Anu agonized, hesitating. "But I cannot sacrifice you. You are the new guardians, the last hope of Lemora. You must live, grow stronger, and reclaim the Temple of Rhas'tar." He pushed his shield out, knocking all the enemies back, and the blinding yellow light flashed. In an instant, we were all falling off the mountain. The snow-packed ground rushed up to greet us at the bottom of the cliff. I could feel my heart throbbing in my entire body, and I screamed. The shields broke as we touched the ground, breaking our fall. We were alive. Tears were streaming down my face, and my whole body felt heavy. What kind of magic was that? I wasn't asleep this time, but I saw the future. And I saw everyone I cared for die here before my eyes. This wasn't a vision. I was sure I had lived through that first experience as well as the second. I looked down at myself, and although I was still intact, I felt as though I was torn into pieces.
Hello, my name is Ella, and welcome to my channel. Here I'll be sharing with you my stories, artwork, animations. If you enjoy my content, please support me by clicking the like button, subscribing, sharing, or ringing the bell for notifications. Links to my website and social media are below. I will be releasing content in sequential order, so please check for new chapters each week.